Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is a video request from some of my followers. They need or they want to know how to use the signal editing for the the simulators that I have here. I guess they acquired it and they don't know how to use it. So I'm going to help them out to see if they can learn a little bit. I mean, this is error and try. I will get the camera a little closer on one of the simulators and explain a little bit how I use it. But let me start the um, recording of the screen and that we can see this better. So this is the software. Let me close this actually here. This is the software that comes either with the big one or with a 9000 plus. There might be named 9000 plus, but it's the same software. You just go to signal edit and this is in here where you will create your own cam and crank or whatever signal that you need to reproduce, because you can do a square wave signals or you can do sine wave. The first seven are for square wave signals, and the 8, 9, 10, 11 are for sine wave. And you'll notice when you start trying to change that, you see how the waveform is a sine wave. You can leave a notch. That's what um, a notch in a gear will look on a signal to create a timing mark for a specific use. Um, on the square wave, it's the same thing. I mean, you just click on whatever, how long is going to be high, depending on the width of that tooth that you are using, and then you can just do anything that you want to use. I also, the nice thing about this, you can save them, and I have some created by myself specifically for what I use. So let me just open one in here so you guys can see it. This is a pretty basic one. This is just an RPM signal, and this one you need, like in here is just a phase of 48. So I just did like, like 2 pages. Like, this is page one, and then I go over to page two, just one in there. So that's a very basic one. And then, let me see. I think this one's a little more, uh, at least you can see it's a cut on the cam. This is what I will use for the crank sensor signal, and this one for the cam. And I will go again, page one, two, three, whatever, depending on the length of that signal that you give is going to repeat itself more accurately. You can also just create the one hatch or haze, let's call in here, which is just one page, and it will repeat whatever you put in there. But if you need to have 34 tooth, it's not going, one page is not going to be enough. Just follow that sequence. I can open another one in here that I was creating yesterday, um, and this one I have 3, 4, 5 pages. As you can see, this is it's a very basic signal too. It's a 4x and a 1x for a cam and crank. This is used on Chevys, sorry, in GM, short block 350s, like like the Chevy Express 2002s and so on. It uses just this, and depends on the engine. It can use a 4x or a 3x if it's a V6 or um, a V8. Um, Let me see if I can find that information. See, these are the things that I like. This is the homework that I do. Okay, what kind of reluctor is in the cam or in the crank? I mean, you have to do your homework. It's the only way. You need to go online, try to find information, and then rely on that, because there is some GMs that uses this 24X, and even though you will say, well, like some of the newer GMs, they use a 58X or 54X. It's a 54 tooth minus one or two, depends on what they use. This is a very unique gear, because even and also as a crank sensor signal, crank sensor. There is an explanation in here, even though that this is a 24x, it's actually two signals on that gear or reluctor. And the sensor, the crank sensor, is very specific to read those. So that is again for all LT1 1996 to 1997. That's what they use. Let me see what else I've found in here. Like this is the 24x reluctor. I wanted to show you, this is the 4x. That's what they call 4x. It's just four tooth. And then you have to give, it's very hard sometimes without a proper signal from an oscilloscope to reproduce that. So if you can go over to EATN or IATN, um, right here, I have it right here. That you can also find a lot of you just become a member, it's worth it. And then you can just put, like a 2005, let's say, Chevy Silverado. And then as you can see, it's a lot of information in here. I just go to files, and then in files you will find a lot of, like this is a fuel pressure waveform, emissions. And then scroll down again, do your homework. Uh, Probably, let me see. No, this is not. I should have one prepared for this. Usually they call that ACM inputs, and that's what they've been, a lot of people calling in here. You're gonna find some of the snap-on waveform in there, and some of the Pico scopes. Um, the important is that you can see. Let me see ACM inputs. Yes, you see this one is very graphic in here. CM camshaft, crankshaft, ignition, injection, correlation. So this is a very good file, and then you can download it here, and then obviously always say thanks to the guy who upload this image, and then they're usually put in here as a known good. This one right here shows it specifically as a known good. This is from Anthony Daniel. Thank you so much for sharing that information. And even though I'm not using it for any specific repair, I can open that file with my picoscope and then see exactly what he was having in there. So now that I open that, I can also, let me just, kind of move a little bit of what he has in here because I don't know what channels are, but you can, and that's very specific with Picoscope, you can deselect channels to clear your view. So it looks like A and B are the important ones. I don't need these rulers, not for what, we're doing in here. So this is the cam and the crank. Just those two. That's what I would use in order to get, and that's actually in a zoom view. So that's the whole capture. You can put your own rulers if you want um, to know the degrees, and all you need to do is just pull it. So that will give you 720 degrees, which is, crankshaft revolution. So without knowing exactly where that is, you need to use what he puts in here, because I mean I'm just showing you what you can do in picoscope. Again, you can put 720 and that will be 720. No, that's not 720. You need to know again how the record file was saved, and he has rulers and everything in there, so I'm just showing you the information. um, and then what I usually pick is, as you can see here, the cam is very basic. And then the crankshaft sensor signal on GMs are really, really easy. It looks like it has a wider and a thin one. It's like a wide, or like a double signal. Let's say, it's like a double width, and then single, single, double, double, single, 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 double. I can, you can decipher a little bit the information if this is a knowing good as he describes when it's repeating himself. Because let's say, it's very specific, even though it's a very easy signal. Let me grab a little more of a signal so we can see that. It's going to be a little hard to do with with the amount of information and the zoom that he has. Let me see. Let me just try to do repetition. You know, we got like a double or wide 5 times in here. No, looks like the 5 times is probably before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yes, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a thin one, and then a okay, yeah. So I can pretty much say that starting here, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, thin one, and then 1, 2, 3 thick ones, 1, 2 thin ones, 1, 2 thick ones, 1, 2, 3 thin ones. You know, that's, I mean, again, it's going to take time, but all this is unique except for, and when it start to repeat, to repeat itself, it's right here. Because then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So even without knowing the whole capture of this is either most likely or more is, let me see, because this he has notes, no notes. See, sometimes it's sad that they don't put notes because they don't use, you don't know which one is the cam and which one is the crank. I will imagine that the blue one is the crank with more resolution, but then, camshaft will turn twice per crankshaft revolution. So that will be the opposite, but either way, so I'm just going into too deep of information for you guys to understand, but then this is how you do it. So you need to capture or find good information and then try to, get as close as possible with the other software. Because, if I have, double, let's say, I'm going to try to reproduce this blue one just a little bit. Let me take that channel B off. So we're going to focus onto this blue one. And I'm going to focus onto this specific area. So now we have just that on the screen, and so we have double. I will say this is a double signal with a single space, because if we see this is like a single space, it looks like a single space, even though this is a double tooth. So I can use that. Let's go back to the software. Um, so I can, let me actually close this and open it up again so we get a clean sheet. So we will have then double tooth with a single space, and then again double tooth with a single space, double tooth with a single space 5 times, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, one more, and then a single space. No, actually it's a double space. You see, because look at the space in between here and here is a single, but then after the fifth double is a double space. So I need double space and then a single, one single, single space, double tooth, single space, double tooth, 3 times, single space, double tooth, and then double space, like no tooth, a single one, double space, a single one, and then I'm almost lost in there, but let me just single one, then a single space, double, single space, double. I'm going right here, right? Double space, single. I'm going into here 3 times, double space, single. See, now that's one page. It's not enough to keep going. So I'm right here, right? So on the second single, now I need to know to do another single because I already put the double space. So I need to go to the next page, and I'm going to start here, single, which is going to be the third one in here, single space, double, which is right here, then double space, single, oops, sorry, double space, single. Then we have single space, double, double space, single. I'm almost here, right? Like double space, single, double space, single, and it's going to be one, two, three, four, 5 times. So double the space, single again, double the space, single again, and then double the space, single again. So that is that signal, and that's how you do it. So I just did a complete look of the same waveform that we have on the screen. So this is just one revolution of the crankshaft. So again, you can either just do that and then where you stop, which is in the 271, I can just put 71 in here. And now the software knows that that is a 71 to repeat and repeat and repeat. So I would recommend to end not just on the tooth because otherwise it will start on the first page. We have that, so it will kind of like butt it together. So make sure that you leave like usually after a single, like here we have a single space. So go over to the next page and then leave it, on the 72. Don't stop in the 71, stop in the 72. So it's going to leave that empty space and then it will start with a double, which is what it's doing on the end of this waveform. All right, so that's how I do it. And then you do the same thing with a crankshaft position sensor. Either one, sometimes you're going to have one crankshaft position, which is, a digital signal, let's say a Hall effect or whatever, or you can have a variable reluctance sensor. There is an AC sine wave, and then you're going to use this one. And then you're going to need to use channel two, and then let's say, I can come here and actually I will need to go over to always start on the first page, right? But that's what's important, and I can start here, and it can be whatever tooth that you need to do. Again, do your homework, find information, and then use it. So that's how I reproduce. So now in order to know if that is actually working, I need to use the oscilloscope. So I save that information. I'm not going to save this because this is just, a random card that I'm not even, I mean, I'm not using it now. And I can always do that, pretty, like you can see, it's pretty quick. Um, so I'm going to close this software again and open it. And I'm going to open one of those signals that I got in here. I got a computer connected that I can use. It's a very basic signal. And I have it on purpose because I want to um, use it for this test to show you guys. So this is again, it's going to be a 4x, what they call 4x, and a 1x is because it's going to be four single tooth. And I did, single with a double space, single with a double space, and blah, 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 right? And then it's going to be a single or 1x, which is going to be a no signal either passive for four tooths of the crankshaft or either up, let's say, 5 volts is going to be a 0 to 5 volts or a 0 to 12 volts, depends on, what you're doing. And you can adjust that on your simulators. When you're reproducing a signal, when you're doing the signal, you're going to be able to use the three knobs that you have in there. On the 9000, you only have three knobs, so it's going to be channels 0, 1, and 2 that you can adjust up to 12 volts or from 0 to 12 volts. On this one, I got seven channels that I can adjust, so it's a little better. I like the sine wave better on there than in here because there is no adjustment for me on the sine waves in here on the big one, but on that one I do have plenty of adjustment on the sine wave. So it's a little bit of the fight, and I can butt it together. Sometimes I use both for one computer, depends on what I'm doing. Okay, so let me keep going with this. So I just, when I know that I'm going to use this, I can either save the information and you put whatever name you want, or write to the tool. I have a USB connected to the um, back of the simulators. Both of them, they have a USB connector, and then you just connect it to your computer, and then successful. All right, so now to know if that was right correctly, I'm going to use again the oscilloscope. I got two channels already connected to it, and you're going to have to bear with me a little bit because my leads are not on to where they were before. But I have now the computer running. And I got to change these settings because it's on AC. I'm not in AC, it's DC. And I gotta go back to like, 10 volts, which is going to be enough for this. So I'm just going to change a little bit of it, the timing base, so we can see more of the signal, and then I'm going to stop it. I can now stop the computer, and then you can see that this is the right signal that I put in there. So again, you can, use a cursor, and then it's a signal that goes from, like 0 to 5 volts. Both of them should be around the same thing because I can see that on the knobs, and that's one thing that I like about the big simulator. I can see what the voltage is without needing to put, um, um, oscilloscope. I can see that already. I can adjust it to from 0 to 12 volts, all the 7 channels, and that is very nice. So we know, yeah, it's almost 5 volts in here. Yeah, from 0 to 5 volts. So both of them are correct. And then let me remove that, and I can go and take one revolution, or let's say, 2 revolutions. This will be 2 cam revolutions, one crankshaft position sensor. So I can just zoom in here, and this will be a 720 degrees, so one turn of the crankshaft. And I can see that I got 1, 2, 3, 4 notches of the crankshaft per one high of the cam, and I have, 1, 2, 3, 4 when the camshaft is low. So this is a 1x because it's only one tooth. That's the way they did it. So it's very low resolution, but that's the way that computer works, and it runs, and everything is good. All right, so and that's how you do it. All right, let me just then now get the camera close to the simulators, and I'm going to show you just um, as far as harness. You need to get your pinouts because I mean everything is very 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 different. I mean you have no. I'm going to pull some of the harnesses that I have built myself. So this is the harnesses that I do, and this is, I made this myself. So this is a connector for here. Let me see, make sure the camera is pointed or can see what I'm doing. Yeah. So this connection in here is made by me. So yes, I know that in this one, let's say I had the cams and cranks and injectors and map sensor, and in this one I have powers and grounds and whatever I choose to have, 2 TPS or whatever, right? And then I can always keep these cables in here. And then when I need to change, let's say, I need to change that harness, I just turn that off. I'm going to unplug this, and you're going to see in real time how long it takes me to switch from one PC to another PC, or PCM, if the connector let me get it out. Yep. So yes, no power, the ground, and that computer is now out. So if I'm going to work with this harness, which I don't even know just by look what it is or what it's for, I don't know, but no need to say. I can just plug in here, and this is ready to go. So I can just come with a computer and plug it in there. These extra cables that I got in here, so one is for the communication that I have on the back, and I have CAN network provided in here, and I got a 5-volt reference. This is actually a bent solenoid. Yeah, I put the 5-volt reference and a sensor ground always. I provided outside to make sure if the computer provides. Some computers show like they have 3 or 4 different 5-volt rails, and internal in the computer it's only one regulator. Then you don't need to get 5 different connectors. But if it's 3 or 4 regulators, I would recommend you to build yourself or put at least, all those for tests. I just, run the computer and I connect the multimeter in here to make sure the sensor ground is working and the fiber reference is working. But like you see, that makes it very quickly. And I make this harness myself. It takes a very long time. I mean, it's not easy because I mean I don't see anybody doing this for multiple computers. I reach out to a company here in Ohio and they pretty much blew me off. And I told them it's like I mean money is not an issue. This is a business, but can you do it for me? Oh yeah, sure. And then never return my email, so I just did it myself. All right, let's go over to. Oh, I forgot to show you things that this one has. Very nice. It has for 12 injectors. I can again adjust all the channels, voltages in here. You'll see I can go up to the voltage 13 and a half volts, 0 to 13 and a half volts. And these channels are here. So all the inputs and outputs are here, and then I have all these lights that comes off with, I can see the injectors working, I can see the ignition workings, and I can adjust, the throttle position sensors, and I can see the values of those sensors in here. I got also, 10 switches, I can put uh, switch to ground, so switch to power, depends on the fuel pumps or relays or etc. That's just a brief description of that one. Now on this one, let me get a little close to this. I'm going to turn one of the lights off because it's giving actually extra glare in there. I think yeah, that's perfect. Things that I like about this other one. Let me put this harness, let me put this harness away. So again, I have created my own harness for different computers. This has an ignition module and the IAC. Let me show you. So this is an IAC for like GM, and so it's a four step motor. And I have instead of a coil, I just put a load of like this is a 1.5 amp bulb for the ignition module. I created this myself too, so I can see and probably you saw it in there blinking, and that's what it will do. So it will as soon as I give an RPMs, I have no computer connected, so I cannot show you that in here. But that's what it will do. That's will start blinking. And the same thing we'll do with the injectors. But okay, for signals in here, this one is very nice because it has already a built-in information. So you have, I think it's like 80 something vehicles. So you can go over to automatic. So you have the first one is sensor signal, element driven, step motor, and automatic. I go over to the first one, so we go one by one. In sensor, you have a DC signal, which if you go there, it will be just whatever lights are blinking on your tool. So coolant temperature sensor, throttle position sensor, map, MAF, and the O2. It doesn't really what can I say? It says cool and temperature sensor. You can use that for whatever you want. I mean, it's a 0 to 5 volts. I mean, if you look at right here, I got 0.1 volts. I can adjust that now to 5 volts. So this is just a variable resistor with a 5 volt reference in there. So you can use that for any other signal as long as it's in between 0 to 5 volts. So you can use that for those. This one has only for 6 injectors. Sorry, let me take this down so you guys can see better. And for now, I'm going to take this oscilloscope to the floor so we get a better view. So this one has also a 5 volt rail here, a 12 volt rail, and a 24 volt rail. It has two knock sensors on the bottom, and these outputs in here are that you can program with the software that comes built in the tool. All right, going back to here, I hope that you understand what you can do with this. The O2 sensor is, I think it's going to be only from 0 to 1 volt. So this one at the end, it will only go from 0 to 1 volt because it's made for an O2 sensor. Again, you can use it for anything, but it will only go from 0 to 1 volt. So that's the first one where it says you always click on run and return to go back to, go back. Exhaust gas, if we run that, we're gonna have, a sine wave form, and it will be coming out of here. So remember, whatever you are selecting, it will happen where the tool is blinking. And if you don't know, just use your oscilloscope and look for that signal. So I can show you. Now let's bring that oscilloscope up. I like this one because it's super fast. It's now ready to go. Let me take the cursors off. So that one is actually happening as we speak. So now I can change the hertz, and I can change the voltage of that signal with this. Right now, what is white is actually happening, so I can change the hertz on that, 3 hertz, 4 hertz. And as you can see, hopefully, let me make sure the camera is picking that up and I'm not too much in the way. Let me click on there, so hopefully, I hope that you can see that. How's that? Yeah, hopefully, I think it's possible. And I try not to be too much in the way. And I have nothing prepared. I'm doing just this as I go. So forgive my mistakes. So again, you change in here. The hertz, I got 9. Oh, sorry, 9. And then, that will be changing the speed of, like, I mean, the frequency of the sine wave. And it goes up to 20 hertz because it's for an exhaust gas. And it looks like I know I cannot change the voltage. So that's all you can change on this signal. So it's a very basic signal up to no more than 20 hertz and 0 to 1 volt. So that is for exhaust gas signal, like an old 2 sensor or so. And then the RPM signal, in here you can select crank sensor signals. This is going to be just only for the crank sensor signal, so just it's not going to reproduce a cam. So let's say this is in a square waveform, and it's running on 20 hertz. It's starting on 20 hertz, and it will either come out of this one, which you can adjust the voltage, and I can show you that in a. I'm using that as a ground actually. Now let me move this over here then. And let me take this out of here. And where's my lead? Okay, right. Oh, that's not gonna be long enough. Trying to do my best. Just bear with me. All right, so we have a square waveform in here. And as you can see, it's, well, probably my ground is not the best because the square waveform, am I in AC? No. You see, I can change the voltage on that one. This one will always be the same height. Let me make sure I'm saying that correctly. You see how, like, I'm adjusting the knob and this one doesn't change. So can change the voltage, so make the square wave a little smaller. And if I put cursors, we will know what the size of that square wave is. Let me just adjust this 1 second. So it's like a 15.4 volts. So it's a very, very high voltage in here. And then this one, you see this one is very small. I can make it bigger. Sorry, the other way. To go off to the 15 volts or whatever was coming out in there. Or I can make it, let's 5, 3, 2, whatever I want. So again, I can move now the cursors to read that. And that is a 5-volt square waveform. So that's the nice thing about this one, that you can adjust that signal. Uh, that's for RPM, and you have, let's see how many we got. I can actually, if you only have like a three of a square, and then the rest are sine waves. Like this one is a sine wave. If I run it, um, we can see that there now. Take the cursors off, and you see we got a sine wave in here. And I'm not sure if that one will come out of here. I think it doesn't. Yeah, no. See, because it's not blinking. You see now the lights at the bottom, they're steady. This one is the only one blinking. I can change the frequency, and that one changes a lot. You see, I'm going now 200 hertz, 300 hertz, 300. I think goes up to like 9,000. And you can see now we cannot even see. I mean, I will have to change the time base of my oscilloscope in order to see that signal. But I'm going to change it so we just see a blurry thing. But if I start going down that frequency, now we can see the signal going slower and slower, and that's what the frequency does. Okay, now we can see the signal more and more and more and more. Okay, so that's what that is. So you will have, again, sine waves, 58 plus 1, 57, 36. There's a lot of them. So we got 13 signals in there. All right, that's what you have in sensor signal. Now element driven. And there you got an ISC, like an IAC valve, idle control valve. You can, if I run in here, it tells me, do the cycle 50%. Again, the ones that are blinking are the ones you're going to use. This one will be adjustable by the knob, and this one will have a steady voltage. You can change the frequency, and sometimes, yeah, and this one I can change also the cycle. So the duty cycle I can change, and also the frequency. Remember, hopefully you guys know, the frequency will be how many times per second that signal is happening, and the cycle will be how long is on and how long is off. All right. We got injectors. We can reproduce us again. Whatever is blinking is the one channel or pins that you're going to be using in here. You got solenoids. It's very basic compared to the other one. I mean, 360 outputs on that one, and we got like 24, 25 in this one. So we got solenoids that we can use in here as well. Let me go back. That's like a BS, it's an AC signal. This is for a vehicle speed signal. You can check, speedometers and so on. This is very, I mean, don't get me wrong. This tool has helped me go through for like at least 6 years before I got the other one, and it's very good. A little one thing that I forgot to show you in the sensor signals is when you're reproducing the RPMs, when you're working in here, you got power and you got ground, and you can use, to turn your computer on. And these ones are working as well. So you can use all these outputs, not just what is blinking. What is blinking is the signal that you're looking to reproduce, but this one, they're also working. And you have, again, when you're turning your computer on, you turn it on in here, and that will have battery here. As you can see, like if I go back, you see how the battery, because we got an ignition, like this one is, let's say, your battery, and this will be your ignition. That will not happen until you put an RPM signal. So that's kind of like the way whoever designed this tool did it. Let me just turn that off. All right, let's go back out. So just briefly on element driven, I think we already have everything that was there. Pretty simple. We have also step motors, a 4 or a 6 step motor, and then now we got different lights. As you see, all these 6 lights now are on. So this is what you're going to be using. And then if you have a 6, now all the red ones on the bottom and the same 6 on the top. But these ones are power and these ones are ground, which they change when you have a 4 step motor. Make sure you see that. Well, actually, not really. They're the same. So just be careful where how you connect that one on here. I haven't really used that in there. I just put my own connectors in here and I drive it with a computer. I don't want to drive an IAC. I don't need to check an IAC. I need to check the computer can drive the IAC. So I haven't really used that much. All right, so now we go over to the last part of this menu, which is what you're going to be using the most is the automatic. You have the trigger signal. I don't even know what you will use this for, but it's there. You got automatic signals. Again, you can use what is blinking in here, and then you're going to be, adjusting your signals in here. Something happened. Let's see. Oh, you have to actually, let's see, TS. I don't know why it's not changing. Um, where was I? It was just a slow refresh, but yeah, they're changing. So these are just the automatic signals, or this one's in here. I don't know where they repeat that, but that's how they did it. So we go to automatic run, and then and then now the make. This is the one I was always using the most. You can have, I don't know if the camera is going to be able to pick that up, but it says, number one Bosch N154M. If you go in there, it will show you pinouts of computers that they already have built into the machine, and it tell you like B plus are pins 18 and 27 and 34. I mean, 27 and 37. Uh, Grounds are number 2, 14 and 24. Fuel pump, no card alarm, fuel pump relay, and then RPM. And this will, if you have that computer, will save you the time to look for the pinout online, even with Identifix or all data or auto data or whatever you need to, get yourself to work with a computer that you got. Uh, is this only for this one? No, I mean, you can use anything you want. So this is after you press in here. Actually, oh, look, it's working because it's producing the RPM. So even though it's no computer, it's on and it's producing an RPM, it's receiving the signal because it's plugged in here. So I got power and ground to this module, and you see that's in a square wave. So I can use that for this module. Let me return here so we can turn that off. So as long as this is connected in here, it's going to receive that RPM signal and it's going to work. And it's a square wave signal, and that works for this module. So as long as you can use a square wave, that will work for any computers that uses a square wave. I always try. Uh, some computers, even they have a very intricate crankshaft sensor signal or a cam sensor signal. They might run with this one because most of the computers, especially the new ones, they have Immobilizer. So can you run those computers full RPMs and have ignition and injector? No, you can't unless you have all the immobilizer system complete and hooked up the weight is on the car, so meaning keys, the speedometer, everything. So if you don't have that, then you have to remove the immobilizer if you need to check the computer completely, and that is a whole different thing. Don't ask me to explain it because that will be forever. So uh, but there is also a way to trick the computer, lower RPM. So as long as you just given sometimes an RPM signal to that computer, you will have injector firing and coil firing. That's what you're looking for. Let's say you have, the complaint that you have on that computer is, the ignition coil number 5 is not working. Well, if that's just a complaint or injector 5 is not working, then you can just trick it like that and make think the computer that is just cranking and it might give ignition coil and ignition firing. Sorry, injector and ignition firing. So you can use like that. If you need to go deeper, then that is again, I will have to teach, and that is a full class that it will take a lot of time. How to do IMO off and all that stuff is a very delicate um, information because you only do that in order to repair that computer and then you put everything back, the original files back into the computer when you give it back to the customers to let them run the car normally, and then it has immobilizer keys and everything working completely 100%. All right, so again, these are just built into information for pinouts. Yes, the signals are going to change and are going to be always that 54x square wave, that 24x square wave, and the 4x square wave, and the rest of the sine waves. Because even though you see this is 50 plus 1, it repeats itself. The only thing that changes is the pinout for you. But then you can use this for whatever you want. Again, you can see I put math and I put IAT in here and oil pressure sensor because I can use that for that. So that was just a I'm very methodic, so I like to put things back quickly. Let me get the oscilloscope out of the way because there is some other things that I want to show you in the night. On uh, 1 second, because I just got hooked up in here. I'm gonna turn this off. These gauges in here, they just show the upper one is for the 12 volts, and then this one is depends on if you're activating the 5 volts or the 24, and then it has an amp meter too, and that will change depending. Let's say, let me plug this once again, and let me go back to the first. I'm going to cover the light so we can, hopefully you guys can see here. All right, when I turn this on, right here when it runs, see how the amperage is, the gauge is moving almost to like 1 amp. How accurate is this? It's very, very good. If I would have an injector, it will show the injector timing very correctly in there here too. But yeah, so you can see how much voltage you are supplying and how much amperage is also being drawn. And that's actually the 24 volts is in here, not the 5 volts. This is for the 24. You can see the needle right there. So that's it. Hopefully you guys can find some good information out of this. It's going to be probably almost an hour me talking it here. Um, I hope this can help some of you guys, and I see you next time. Thank you so much, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye bye. Have a good night.